All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher here with Drew Dinsick. We're recording during, the second quarter of Sunday Night Football.
Mm.
Not much is happening. It's 3-0. Chiefs, Chargers. We're going to talk, though, about the rest of the Sunday slate, which was a bit more eventful. We'll look at Week 15 openers and then close out with Monday Night Football, Bengals at Cowboys. But, Drew, let's start off with Bills-Rams. The anti-Josh MVP, Josh Allen MVP agenda finally chalked up an L on Josh, but at what cost? As he was superhuman, first quarterback in NFL history, 3 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns in the same game. Still not enough to win. We'll talk about MVP stuff later in the week. Mahomes still on the periphery of that, and we'll get a better understanding about 1 seed repercussions after Chiefs Chargers concludes. But with Bills Rams, do you think that said more about the Bills defense or about the Rams offense? Because that was really, it was not that much of a surprise that Josh Allen cooked the Rams defense, but I thought the other side of the ball was a little bit surprising that the Rams were so completely dominant.
I didn't find it super surprising because the Rams do step up for these type of games, and we knew that like this was a super important one for them because with that win, they now control their own destiny. I know the Seahawks win, and they are now huge, kind of catbird seed for the NFC West. But if the Rams keep winning football games, then Week 18 comes down to head-to-head versus Seattle for all the money. And I think the Seattle schedule actually is not looking great, if I'm being honest. I worry about these next 2 matchups against very, very live NFC North teams. And I think ultimately this is an opportunity for the Rams to probably steal this division, which is crazy, but they need to beat a San Francisco team that obviously got right today. But the Rams offense, now that they've sort of figured out personnel on the offensive line and they have a balanced attack, and Sean McVay kind of is really cooking with the pieces that he has to work with, it's exciting to watch. And they finish with Niners, Jets, Cardinals. If they win those 3 games, which they should all be pretty competitive in, if not favored, certainly in the last 2, then yeah, hosting the Seahawks Week 18, January 5th, becomes the de facto NFC West championship game. And I would think the Rams were going to be like 3-ish point favorites in that one, if not more, if they continue to build on what we've seen. If you protect Stafford, if you have healthy weapons in the passing game, then this team is dynamic, diabolical. It's amazing. And the stat that really stood out from this particular game was certainly the 3rd down conversion rate for the Rams was unbelievable. They had the right play at the right time every time they needed it on a key 3rd down. Because you mentioned it, Josh Allen was superhuman today, and they had to score into the 40s to get this win. 41 points wouldn't have done it. They needed all 44 that they got. And I think ultimately it was a testament to just outstanding playing calling, balanced offense, and just having a fully healthy set of weapons and a really good vision. I'm kind of sad that the world now knows that the Bills defense stinks. The underlying metrics for them for a while have looked pretty bad. In fact, a lot of the top AFC teams, the underlying metrics for the defense look pretty bad. So if somebody kind of steals this division or this conference, I don't think we should be totally shocked. I know it still is going to come down to quarterback play, but right now, Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, best quarterbacks in football behind those 3, with those 3 teams. That's where things start in terms of a playoff matchup handicap, but 3 very beatable defenses right now. And the Bills defense didn't put up much of a fight today, and I'm glad because I have a lot of Rams at super long prices that I would love to see live. But the Josh Allen MVP factor of it all hurt a little bit today, I will say.
Yeah, it's a strange thing to balance up because he takes the loss and he loses 1 seed equity, but at the same time, he had 6 total touchdowns in the game and just could not be stopped and had 0.65 EPA per play or whatever it was. So it's pretty hard to drift for MVP even with the loss. But if he loses to Detroit next week and he's a dog in that game, then it will get interesting. A little 2-game losing streak. If he shows any signs of mortality, so the Detroit defense, perhaps not the best kind of soldiers you want to send out there for any anti-Allen movement for MVP. So I think he is he has put himself in the box seat for the award after today's performance. But let's get to some of the other games on the slate. Just a couple of random stray thoughts. The Giants-Saints game was just completely and utterly ridiculous. The Giants end up covering Brian Daboll, who, if you think back to the Monday night game against the Bengals forever ago, where he just went for it on every fourth down. He hit the yes button every single time, regardless of context. It almost felt like this time he's just repeatedly punting on 4th and 2 from like the Saints 42-yard line. It's like, all right. Does he know that he's in the job next year and that, you know, he wants Cam Ward as his quarterback? I thought that was quite amusing. Elsewhere, do you think that the Niners might have fixed themselves a little bit, or do you think the Bears are just a catastrophe?
I need to rewatch that game to have a sincere opinion. But the fact that Kittle was back and he has been the most dependable and important part of the Purdy success this year, I think was meaningful. They obviously, Juwan Jennings had a nice day as well, and Kittle, Jennings, Isaac Guerrero. Okay. Like this is decent offense. The Niners defense didn't really get exposed. And I think that's really what the matchup this week is going to be more about, is have they fixed anything on the defensive side of the ball? Surely the offense is going to score some points against the Rams, but can they keep them, in the 20s as opposed to the 30s or 40s? Then that's really kind of where that game breaks one way or the other. I would say that Purdy looks sharp. No issues really with the shoulder. And that matters, obviously, because in the back of my head, the way they were treating that injury and the way he played last week against Buffalo, I was kind of like, I don't know, maybe they just put him on ice this year and take the loss and kind of come back next year. But it seems like they're going to continue to fight. And, all of these teams that we're talking about, of the NFC West, and we are not that far removed from being like, wow, the Cardinals might steal this division. Well, now the Cardinals look very out of it, and the Niners are the team that nobody might, that maybe like the proverbial team no one wants to play as a deep wild card now. And that said, they are not out of it in the NFC West, although they don't control their own destiny the way the Rams do.
Indeed. Also from the Sunday slate, I think it's worth touching on the fact that Sam Darnold was magnificent, and just his ability to kind of create outside of structure and create in chaos. Now, it doesn't mean it's fantastic under pressure this season in terms of his EPA under pressure versus being kept clean, but just his ability to kind of escape pressure and create high variance plays is very impressive. Though the Falcons' pass defense regressed to the unit that got eviscerated by Bo Nix, and not so much the unit that completely shut down Justin Herbert and the Chargers offense. Elsewhere, did you read anything into how much the Philly passing game struggled against the Panthers? Because someone who needed the Eagles to get through that, I got to say, if Saquon Barkley MVP is looking less likely now after that Allen performance, but if it does get home, if he does break the rushing record, if Allen loses to Detroit and the path unwinds, then he may have gotten MVP by the length of Xavier Leggette's fingertips or whatever was unable to bring in that pass at the end.
Yeah.
Do you think there were red flags with Hurts and the way that he and the passing game played?
Yes, but I also qualify it with it was a very, it was a game that really lacked a lot of meaning for the Eagles, and it mattered a lot to the Panthers to kind of prove that they are kind of coming on and that things are working and that these guys do deserve jobs on this team next year and really deserve a seat at the table for the rebuild. And that's kind of the paradigm that you have with a lot of the players on that roster right now. But with Devontae Smith back and A.J. Brown fully healthy against this secondary for the Carolina Panthers, I expected a lot better. This was a negative EPA, total EPA generated game for Jalen Hurts, which is really, really not covering yourself in glory against, at home against a massively inferior opponent. I think I want to hand wave a little bit of this to situational, kind of factors because, the market moved in their direction. This closed 14. So there was obviously a lot of people that agreed with us that this should have been like a 13.5, 14-point spread. And the fact that they did actions of these two teams currently. Sometimes you need to win ugly against, a challenger that shows up at your door. And they did that. This week they have a Steelers team that's a lot more difficult in terms of finding a way to kind of sustained success offensively, I would assume, relative to the Panthers. But you have even more of a kind of an interesting test of a Steelers offense that is, looks functional right now against your defense, which I thought was the best in football, but, had some cracks at times. But these next two games, Steelers Commanders, really kind of clinch things for the Eagles, I think, if they can get these two wins. And, the Lions, on the other hand, obviously a huge win, and so much mattered on that Thursday night game against the Packers for them. But it does feel very much like they are holding on by by the tips of their fingers, and the defensive injuries seem to be a huge issue, as the market, of course, prices them this week against the MVP and Josh Allen.
You're not an MVP yet, Drew. MVP elect. Things can still change over the.
I don't mind talking him up now, so that when it all comes down, it comes down hard.
The issue is it's going to be like Jamal Adams and other guys who I've never heard, didn't even know were on the Lions, who are going to have to stop Josh.
Jamal really Adams was out there against Jordan Love, and oh my goodness.
Yeah, there's a guy running around whose last name was Muhammad, who I don't know who is this person. Like, who is this person on the Detroit Lions? At least the Darius Smith is out there, but going to be counting on Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph. Brian Branch, by the way, it seemed like he was nursing a calf injury during the Packers game, so yeah, not ideal across the board. But one thing you mentioned about just the Lions defense and just overall that situation. Before I forget, I did wanted to mention that I was so happy that Sean McVay went for that 4th and 5 on the final drive. Well, the penultimate drive, the real last meaningful drive where they were trying to do anything. That is such a full circle moment from him not going for it in the playoff game against Detroit, where that has been his Achilles heel. It's been Shanahan's Achilles heel. It's been Reid's Achilles heel. Belichick as well in his later years, where these guys, they just don't go for it enough on 4th down, and they skew to conservatism. I don't know if it's something about the Shanahan tree in particular, but McVay going for it there, because you can't just make those decisions in a nutshell about your confidence in your offense specifically getting the yards. You also need to make it in the context of how likely are you to stop the other team. And Dan Campbell, when he went for it on 4th and 1, he knew that he didn't have any players left on defense. Yeah. There were a couple years ago where Harbaugh went for it against the Steelers with Lamar. This is a different 2-point where Harbaugh went for it this year because he had to, but he went for it against the Steelers, I want to say 3 years ago with Lamar. And the reason he went for it, he said, is that we didn't have any cornerbacks left. They were all hurt and we couldn't go to overtime. So we need to win the game here. And with McVay going for it, that it's not, if you kick a field goal, then it's going to be the exact same thing that happened to the Cardinals last week against the Vikings, where the other team is just going to march down the field and score a touchdown, which, I mean, the market probably would have priced it as Rams favored in that spot because, the average outcome isn't scoring a touchdown. I'm telling you, the average outcome there was scoring a touchdown for Josh Allen. He's going to score a touchdown with 4 downs. So he needed to score it, and he did. And he was rewarded, and it's probably saved their season, because if they kick a field goal there, I think Allen marches down, and then they're pretty much done for the playoffs. So well done to Sean McVay. The Campbell one was a little less obvious, I think, but I do think it was ultimately the right call, and he got it done as well. So congratulations to coaches going for it on 4th down. Though I don't really want to say congratulations to Dan Campbell, because I don't think that's analytics. I think it's just, as I said on the Happy Hour show.
Yeah.
Smelly. Yeah, I said I don't think he has like a sheet that has all the probabilities. I think he has a sheet that just says the word destiny in all capital letters, and he just reads it. He's like, all right, destiny again. I guess we're going for it. 4th and 7 against the Cowboys for the 2-point. Why kick the point after to tie it and send it to overtime when we can just win the game from the 7? But yeah, no, I love it. I love it all. All right, let's.
I think your points are really interesting and fair. I very, very much think there's certainly a blend of, hey, this is our identity. The players obviously love it. Yeah. They love it. And if you can kind of engender that type of, just I'm going to put my body through a wall for this man, because, this is destiny, right? Like, that matters with professional football and how hard you're trying, surely. And he's built an identity. That's definitely part of it. But you're right. Like, if you're doing the mental calculus and you're like, okay, well, my defense has a 0% chance of stopping Jordan Love or stopping Josh Allen, then the math is pretty simple. Yeah. And so I think in the moment they can feel that way.
Yeah. I will say with the Lions, there is an element of like religiosity about that team that I can't remember with another team where Campbell in these speeches, he's constantly referring to how we are all meant to be here. It's like he's,
Colt. It's cultish. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Matthew McConaughey speaking in Interstellar when he's in the bookshelf or something. But no, it's great to see, and I hope the Lions keep winning. One, because it'll hurt Josh Allen's MVP candidacy, and then two, because we get more Dan Campbell victory speeches, which are the best content in football at the moment. All right, let's go to some more content in football. The Week 15 openers. What leapt off the page to you from this slate? I know that you've got your eye on Colts-Broncos.
Yeah, that one is absurd to me. And these are two teams coming off a bye, so I've had a long time to chew on this. But five, no. This is a humongous game for the Colts. The Colts win this game. They launched themselves into a playoff discussion. I don't know if you've seen the last 3 games for the Colts, but they can, if Anthony Richardson continues to carry forward this arc, which has been clear and obvious to me, then this team is going to steal that 7th playoff position from these Denver Broncos. This is a Broncos team that I'm expecting to be without Riley Moss. I don't know if you saw the game against the Browns on Monday night last night, Jay, but that matters a lot. No Moss matters a lot. And I'm, maybe he ultimately is healthy enough to play, and I am, left with a little egg on my face here. But I think the Colts can absolutely attack down the field, hit the deep shots. Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, I'm expecting to be back. The Colts desperately needed this bye to get their wide receivers healthy. I think that this offense could absolutely throttle a Broncos defense that is reeling right now. And on the flip side, the Colts defense and Gus Bradley, he does one thing well, and it's the one thing Bo Nix has not figured out. And I think that if they can play a little bit of an aggressive man type of coverage scheme against these Broncos receivers who can't really separate, then Bo Nix might have himself a little bit of a pumpkin moment here. So I like Colts plus 4.5. I like Colts plus 5. I like Colts money line in this game, and I think the Colts are coming for a playoff spot.
Yeah, I like it. I think that a lot of people, no one's been watching Colts games the past 3 weeks because they played, I believe they played in the early window all 3 weeks, and they played against the Jets, who were cooked by that point. They played against the Lions in a game that everyone just expected the Lions to roll, and then they played against the Patriots, and no one was watching that game. Well, if you were watching, Anthony Richardson is a new player. He's been a new player these past 3 weeks. He looks substantially better than he was. And I get that the stats still don't look great, but watch the games and watch how his receivers are screwing him to religious levels, because he is, I can't remember a receiver getting more screwed, a quarterback getting more screwed by his receivers. I think he has the highest drop rate since 2015 this year, Anthony Richardson, of any quarterback. Wow. I think he has turned the corner. I think that with him playing at a high level, and look, he hasn't gone up against the best defenses. That will be the caveat there, that the Jets' pass defense isn't great. The Lions' defense obviously very banged up, and then the Patriots' defense. So that's the test for Richardson, because even with the Levi Wallace factor, the Broncos are a much better defense. But I think that he has shown enough the past 3 games to believe that, I don't think Anthony Richardson, I think he's been the 6th best quarterback in football by PFF grade the past 3 games. I don't think he's the 6th best quarterback in football. But if he was a bottom 5 quarterback before, he looks like he's kind of halfway in between there, or that type of level. And he is very high variance. And also, he is the type of quarterback who is more immune to an elite defense because of his ability to create out of structure and to manufacture value on perfectly covered plays. And just his variance. He's the most freakish athlete that the game has ever seen at the quarterback position. So I'm with you there. I just worry about the Colts defense. Drake May kind of cook them. And I don't think there are really injuries that can be pointed to. So, I mean, their statistical profiles of defense isn't horrific. It's actually fine. It's like mid-tier. But when I watch the Colts, I don't really understand how it's mid-tier because it doesn't look good ever. Do you have any concerns about that side of the ball against the great Bo Nix?
No, but only because Gus Bradley is predictable, but he's now has 2 weeks to study the tape on Bo Nix for this last quarter of the season, and a game like the Browns game, like it should be very obvious what to do. And I think it plays a little bit into his strength. Bo Nix against the zone when the Browns were running it was unstoppable. He was knifing them down the field, and huge big plays. Blown coverages obviously were a factor because there are some problems with the coverage for the Browns, but against zone, he was very comfortable and running a smoothly oiled machine. Against man, he was effectively useless. 3 of 13, and just no explosive plays, and so many just kind of like very, very clear, obvious rookie moments. So if Gus Bradley can't figure that out and kind of tailor that into his wheelhouse, then I'll be disappointed in Mr. Bradley.
Yep. No, Gus Bradley doesn't inspire a great deal of confidence. He's kind of just the stereotype of a kind of veteran defensive coordinator who hasn't been super creative or revolutionary in a long time. Just kind of rolls out the same conservative bend but don't break defense every year, it seems like. In terms of other openers, I don't think this is wrong or anything, but the Niners being 2-point favorites at home to the Rams is interesting. So watching that Rams game against the Bills, I was watching it like, why are the Rams worse than like the Packers? Like, what's the difference? Like with this offensive line,
the easy answer is they're not.
Yeah, with Puka,
well, their defense is a little worse.
I think is Puka in terms of receivers, I think I would take Jefferson 1. I would take Chase 2. I might take Puka Nacua 3. Like he is in that kind of world with AJ Brown, just his ability to kind of do everything. And then Cooper Kupp was making Cooper Kupp plays all game against the Bills too. So, I mean, yeah. I think I trust their offense more than Green Bay's, and I think both of their defenses suck. So I don't know what really the difference is between those two teams, and people like the Packers as a Super Bowl sleeper. So did you have any feel for, like, this line is saying that these two teams are basically even? Do you agree with that assessment at the moment?
I disagree. I would rate the Rams a decent amount higher than the Niners right now. My fare for this one, without adjusting for injuries, is effectively a pick. Niners I have as a 0.3 point favorite, and so this is going to be a very tightly contested game. Obviously, when you have a fair and you have momentum with a team like the Rams, and it's a short week, a lot of familiarity here, a lucky win the first time they came, they went head to head. Like, there are going to be some factors that I think bounce this around between pick and 2.5 all week. I don't ultimately think we ever see a 3 with the Rams. If we do, then that's probably one of my favorite plays of the week. But at the 2.5 kind of range, it's mostly just scratching your head, and ultimately, if we play this, I think it's probably going to be a money line.
Okay. I like it. All right, it's an NFC battle in the Pacific Northwest on Sunday night when your man Jordan Love and the Packers square off with Geno Smith and the Seahawks. Coverage of the matchup begins at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on NBC and Peacock.
As you all know by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. If you haven't signed up to BetMGM yet, use bonus code BETEDGE, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code BETEDGE. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your first bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code BETEDGE when you sign up. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code BETEDGE and get your $1,500 first bet offer today.
Looks like Justin Herbert is hurt. Hopefully he is okay. We'll talk about any residual impact from that if he's not okay, but hopefully he gets back up. Let's talk about Bengals Cowboys. Cowboys are 5.5-point dogs at home. The total is 49.5. Do you have any bet in this game, Drew?
Yeah, I bet the Cowboys. I took the points. I think that this is an absurd market. I don't love being involved with the great Cooper Rush. I don't really understand why the Cowboys aren't as good at home as they are on the road for some reason, but I'm willing to throw all of that out the window and expect that the Cowboys actually are being wildly underrated by market heading into this game. As much as I am critical of sort of what Dallas is doing right now, their defense is playing average. Their offense is playing below average, but it's not like anywhere close to the dregs of the NFL. And I think that you have a decent matchup against a Bengals team that is going to be missing huge. Rankin's unavailable. He's maybe the only guy that was playing well in the interior of that D line. In recent weeks, and Orlando Brown unavailable at the tackle position. So Joe Burrow, who was under duress aggressively the last handful of weeks, it's going to be even more obvious with Micah Parsons and company now. So I am not close to market on this one whatsoever. My fare would be 2.8. And so anything bigger than 3, and I'm happy to get involved. 5.5 and 3.5, obviously not a huge difference there, but enough to be very excited about an opportunity to back a Cowboys team that I think can make this a one-score game. Cincinnati, of course, is amazing passing offense. Surely they're going to have plenty to say about the final total in this game, as we're staring at an enormous number. But I think that ultimately this is an opportunity for the Cowboys to continue what's been a little bit of positive momentum of late, and they may be able to steal a win, even though that certainly doesn't in the end help them as far as kind of being able to get some elite draft players this year. But that said, this is a number that is way too big, in my opinion.
Do you think the combination, everyone's focused on Parsons coming back, and obviously that's the biggest part because he's Micah Parsons and he's one of the 3 best defensive players on the planet. 2 best, I think. But people also focus much on Deron Bland coming back, which for all the kind of shtick that Deron Bland got last year for not being a true defensive player of the year candidate, I think it kind of obscured a bit the fact that he is a really good cornerback, even if he's not, he's not Darrelle Revis. But and I think that there was just a backlash to the chatter about him because of all the pick sixes and everything. And it was a kind of cool thing to say, Deron Bland's not actually that good. Well, he's pretty good, and now he's back, and he's opposite Trayvon Diggs, and they have Parsons back. Do you think that those 2 returning have vaulted the Cowboys back into being not the top 4 defense they were last year, but closer to that than the absolute tire fire they were for the first half of this year?
Without question, yes. I would also give a little bit of a nod to Zimmer just figuring out what he's got. Right, like he was out of football for a long time, and you could kind of feel it with some of the performances you saw from this Dallas defense, particularly early in the season. And I think ultimately now, it's a good thing getting Deron Bland back and pushing CJ Goodwin down the depth chart. That's a good thing. And I think ultimately the loss, the absence of Lawrence is still clearly felt. DeMarcus Lawrence was always a little bit of a wild, a little bit of an underrated player. I know he's gotten some all-pro buzz, but he matters a ton. And you've seen actually starting to, some of these other guys who have backfilled for him step up a bit and play a little bit better in his absence, and so that matters. They are honestly the big breakout for this defense this year has been DeMarvion Overshawn. He plays hard. He plays well at the linebacker position. He's rangy. I have not been especially impressed by Eric Kendricks or Liafu, but Overshawn has done a nice job. So yeah, I mean, this is right now, I would rate them very clearly league average. There are so many defenses that are taking big steps back this late in this season, and so the obvious answer is somebody's got to rise, and with the personnel and just in general with the quality of play we're seeing now, it's definitely Dallas.
Yeah, it's a strange thing to say about Rico Dowdle, but 68.5 rushing yards might be too low for Rico.
Dude, he's gonna have a day. I would be shocked if he is if he's bottled up here.
Well, I mean, the Bengals,
Logan
they
Wilson
have,
also gone.
yeah, the Bengals have the third worst rushing defense by EPA, and Dowdle, for as much of a kind of a punchline as he was at some point, like there's not many running backs who get 41 carries across 2 weeks in the NFL. He's a legitimate workhorse back now, and he's kind of taking control of that backfield, which is, not the most inspiring universe to have your backfield taken over by Rico Dowdle, but he's been perfectly solid. And I think that they will continue to try and run the ball against the Bengals. I don't think particularly this team is going to just abandon the pass or abandon the run entirely if they are playing from behind in the second half. So yeah, Rico Dowdle, I think that he should get plenty of work. Do you think a loss here would sink Joe Burrow's strange comeback player of the year candidacy?
Yeah, because you know who's coming? Anthony Richardson.
Right. Yes. I think he has to. Yeah. I think he's going to make the playoffs, but no, there's no one else. Like, there's no other players left who want to win the award. Kyler Murray.
I will just say,
don't want it.
Just real quick, Richardson checks the box of he's come back from a season-ending injury last year. Yes. This is his entire rookie campaign. He's coming back from being benched this year, so he checks the
narrative,
performance narrative comeback box, and I think he's going to be playing in some meaningful games for a potential playoff stealing Colts team here in the final quarter of the season. I am excited. I'm just very excited to see him with a healthy complement of weapons against this Denver Broncos team, potentially without Moss. And then he gets to welcome in the Tennessee Titans, the New York Giants, and the Jacksonville Jaguars to round out his 2024 campaign. So this is your time.
Yeah, I mean, he looks like a better candidate now than Kyler Murray or Kirk Cousins, who are the other quarterbacks threatening Burrow. The thing is that what people have brought up to me about Richardson is that his stats are just really bad. And I get it. Like, he has 7 passing touchdowns and 9 interceptions. But in a world where he does finish hot, that is going to change. And as we know, this award, it's not so much statistically based as it is based around story, as evidenced by Joe Flacco with 13 touchdowns and 8 interceptions in 5 games of football, winning the award last year. But I think if Anthony Richardson has a strong final 4 games of football to go with his previous 3 strong games, I think that in a very weak field, and with a lot of these awards, people focus on too much, like, it's like you're comparing Anthony Richardson to like Tom Brady's case in 2009 or whatever. It's like, no, Richardson doesn't have to beat the guys who won the award previously. He doesn't have to beat like Ryan Tannehill leading the league in passer rating or whatever the year that he won it. He doesn't have to beat Geno Smith playing at a down ballot MVP level for half the season and then getting into the playoffs at the end in a surprise berth. All he has to do is beat a weird Joe Burrow case, and then whoever else is even a candidate at this point. Sam Darnold, who's not even he doesn't even fit the criteria. So yeah, I think if Richardson closes hot, he'll resonate, but he needs to close on.
I'm telling you, he just needs to beat the Broncos. He's winning those last 3 games, and then he has come back from being benched and gone 6-1.
Yeah, yep, I agree. And he meets the criteria from last year, even though it's weird because what does he have to come back to if he doesn't have an established level?
Sure.
I would kind of argue that the whole arc of his career to date gives him a huge comeback just narrative if he does surge home and looks like a franchise QB the rest of the way. But weird market, weird candidate, but could be the loudest one if he does finish hot. All right, we are done for today. Don't forget to check out NBCsports.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks to those watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to rate and subscribe. Also a reminder to find all your favorite NBC Sports shows on Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. From myself and Drew, we'll see you soon.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.